All right. 23, absolute in perspective. This is pretty much a rehash of everything. So let's rehash some important points that we talked about so far. We talked about the matrix and how we perceive through our senses, which is our consciousness, and our mind, which is actually in a field, in a bioelectric field, and it interacts with other fields in the matrix. So the matrix is, they're saying, an embodiment of the absolute, which is energy without limit. We talked about that. So we're energy without limit. It's always, it's present. There's nowhere to go. So it's just there present. And the hologram is energy with limits. So that's, it has to be limited so we can have points of reference. And it's basically matter doesn't exist. It's just an energy grid. And the hologram is just a ridiculously complex interaction of these energy grids, including our consciousness is one of these energy grids. And so we can manipulate our consciousness to vibrate at different levels so we can perceive shit that normal people can't perceive, or normal, or whatever status quo, regular folks, muggles, whatever you want to call them. So this consciousness field that we have can be manipulated and sent out not only locally through our environment, right? Maybe you could see more colors and more sounds, like when you're on little mushrooms or even good weed. You know, you take a hit and everything turns HD. You can see more colors, and that's just another way of expanding our consciousness vibrations to receive more information than we normally would. And I think I put up the thing of the light spectrum. We're only seeing a very small portion of the light around us. And this also kind of, and sounds too, you know, like dogs can hear shit that we can't hear. So we're hearing and seeing and smelling, and just a tiny, minute portion of the shit that's going around us. And so there's ways to expanding our senses is expanding consciousness, because then you're able to retain information from that matrix. And so not only can you do that with the environment, but we can also send our fucking consciousness outside of space and time. And we do that through either deep meditation or the methods they're talking about here in this paper. So, or we do it through mushrooms. This is a psychonautic. This is a psychonaut group. I forgot. Psychonauts. So, you know, we take our you might have taken, went heavy in a microdose and went for a walk and start seeing all kinds of shit that you never noticed before. And that's just because you're vibing at a higher level and able to receive information from the similar entities or energy grids in your environment. So, like fairies, I saw fairies. When I came into my garden, I saw fucking fairies because I was vibing that high. I was vibing on their level and they were in my garden. So, you can't tell me shit. Anyway, but not only that, but you can also transcend space and time. So you can put your consciousness out and go see what's going on Mount Everest, or who's over there, or the center of the earth, because the mechanics of it I explained in one of the videos. It was a great video, by the way, where you basically, when the brain waves, when our consciousness at the peak of the brain waves at the bottom, where there's a moment where we're actually they call it clicking out. So you blink out of existence. So we're doing that, like right now. I'm blinking it out of existence. Believe it or not, everything is anything that oscillates, which is pretty much everything, every matter, every energy grid we're interacting with, is in and out of existence, and they're presently in absolute, but it's just so infinitesimally small amount of time that we don't notice. So um, what we do when you transcendental meditate for years and you get reach a certain level, your waves are the waves become so compact that the peaks and the troughs, the valleys, are so close that you can um, get information from the absolute from those areas that are out of space and time. And they say you can do it better through transcendental meditation, but the paper mentioned at the very last, I think the paragraph before this, 22 out of body experiences when you're either maybe lucid dreaming or remote viewing, um, or having an out of body experience is the best and more effective method to explore the realms of the absolute. And again, it's not really the absolute, because if you're really at that one point where you reach the absolute, if you're there, you have no awareness of self, and so you can't really. I mean, you're in the absolute, so you're part of it. It's everything. There's nothing. You can't make a make. You can't make your own. There's no. So energy without limits. There's no. You can't have your consciousness be. What's the word? Consciousness can't hold together an absolute. Everything is just energy without limit. It's just there, and it's complete stillness. But it's energy, but it's complete stillness, and it's consciousness, and it's perfect 0 point, whatever you want to call it. But there, you cannot really have awareness of self, so therefore you can't really do anything, right? You can just passively observe everything, future, past. You can passively observe that. But there's a little points before you reach that 0 point on the brain waves where you can. That's where we call the levels or planes of existence. People call it like ethereal plane, astral plane, whatever, planes of legend, Valhalla, all that stuff. Emotional plane, there's a mental plane they talk about, and that stuff there is accessible in that little moment before you get to absolute. So when you're in that state, you can be hold your consciousness still and be able to do stuff, play and do work in there. So it's not really an absolute we're doing it. It's that little point before the absolute. I'll put up a little visual there. And so that's basically it.